Good morning, Path to Warren podcast. This is Matt Warren. It is episode 574. Today is a Wednesday morning. It is Wednesday, 27th of December, 2023. December 27th, 2023. A couple days after Christmas, going into work. It's going to be a short week this week. I wanted to share about a tip and technique that I heard for real estate development this weekend. I was listening to some podcast, and I was actually listening to the Robert Kiyosaki. He's the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad and the inventor of the cash flow quadrant game, um, which, by the way, I've got to get that game one day. But he he was talking with his real estate developer buddy, and they were talking about how there's this concept of if you go to a four-way stop and you look across at all the corners, and three of the corners have four-story or six-story buildings on them, but there's one corner that is, just a residential house. He said, most people don't realize it, or don't capitalize on this, but that corner with the house, we know can be developed into a four or six story building. So the value of that house is so much more than just the value of the house, because it's already zoned in that higher level of zone. So it just got me thinking about, what a great concept to look at. I really need to learn more about the zones and almost have the map printed out or readily available so I can just flip to it if I'm riding past something and say, oh, look at that piece of land. I wonder what zone it is. Um, I'm probably not going to print it out because it would be probably out of date the moment I printed it out. It needs to be real time. Um, but just to really get more familiar with the zones, because if something's zoned multifamily or uh, residential multifamily or versus commercial multifamily, I got to become an expert in all those zones um, in order to maximize pieces of land. Finding that piece of land and building a apartment complex or a duplex, it's really a goal of mine. Uh, I heard one guy say this weekend that building an apartment complex or building a duplex, there's a lot more risk because you're investing in the developer, as opposed to if you're buying a duplex or an apartment complex, you're investing into the deal. And I just love that. I thought that was a great uh, visualization of, yeah, I might want to go build a duplex or an apartment complex, but when I go to ask for money, it's all going to be on my shoulders and Megan's shoulders. It's not going to be on the project. It's not going to be on the deal because the deal doesn't cash flow yet. So just some things to think about. I also found it very fascinating that Robert Kiyosaki said that unlike Grant Cardone's philosophy of 32 units or larger, uh, Robert said, start small. You're going after these um, 16 units or 20 unit apartment complexes. That's how he started. That's how Robert started. And he got to where he had a couple of those under his belt, and he was told by a property manager, I can't work with you because you're thinking too small. He was just buying up 16 and 20 unit apartment complexes. He wasn't going after the big boys. Now he's going after 300 or 500 unit apartment complexes. Robert pushes back on Grant Cardone's philosophy of it takes the same amount of labor, same amount of time, go after 32 units or larger on your first deal. Go after a 200 unit deal on your first time. And I think that's a little much. I don't see that being a practical way. I definitely see it possible to raise money for a 16 unit apartment complex, but I don't see it possible right this second to go after. I don't think it's wise. Not that I don't think it's possible. I believe anything I go after is possible. I just don't think it's wise to go in by myself on a large 500 unit apartment complex. I was approached during lunch the other day with a guy who I knew from a Deal Finders Christmas party. I met him at a Christmas party, and he was telling me how he's got a 500 unit apartment complex. It's like 527 units. They're asking 68 million for it. He's already got 60 million in funding figured out. Now he's just got to get the remaining 8 million. And I said, well, let me help you find those, source that 8 million. It'd be a good exercise for me to call my contacts and try to drum up some investors, right? So I don't know that that'll go through or not. He doesn't have it under contract yet. He had to submit proof of funds. Excuse me. He had to submit proof of funds, and that didn't go over very well. Well, I don't know. He had to come up. I think he had to cheat his way into submitting proof of funds because he didn't have that yet. So we'll keep you posted. If something comes through and he wants me to help him source some deals, I could do that. But as of right now, I'm just kind of laying low. But that would be like the only example of a project where I would or could go in with him together, right? Like have a partner in something like that. So hope you found this beneficial. My action step here is I'm going to learn more about zoning and try to become more familiar about how all the zones work in the Richland County, Lexington County area. Hope you have a wonderful day, and remember, as Mom always says, make your contribution. Thanks for listening.